Hello, you're on the Ruslan Belov channel. So the fighting continues, and we continue analyzing the situation on the front lines. Let's open the map. All right, friends, over the past 24 hours, there have been several very successful advances. But at your numerous requests, I want to start with the situation in the Kursk region, specifically in the area of the villages Tyotkino, Popovo Leżachi, and Novi Put. I see a lot of messages like, "What's going on in Tyotkino? What's happening with Tyotkino? Why aren't you saying anything about Tyotkino?" And so on, and I know why people are asking. Because someone, not pointing fingers, spread a fake story a few days ago, claiming that the Ukrainian armed forces had broken through to the center of Tyotkino, that the entire southern part was encircled, and that 2 companies were trapped there. Urgent panic, spread the word, and so on. Well, it got spread, didn't it? A lot of people started to panic. Meanwhile, today is June 9th, and it's obvious that all those reports and claims were false. The AFU never reached the center of Tyotkino in that area. Here's the area where they tried to advance. You can even see it on the map. They couldn't even reach the outskirts of the village. Our guys didn't let them in and repelled all the attacks. And of course, no 2 companies got cut off or encircled in the southern part of the village. That's impossible, because once again, the AFU didn't even enter Tyotkino here, so there was no one to cut off. And I've been in contact from the very beginning with the guys in the neighboring village. As soon as that information appeared, I posted on my Telegram channel that it was fake, a lie, and not to fall for it. Now let's talk about what's actually going on in Tyotkino. What's really happening there? And the situation is the same as it's been since early May. The AFU are trying to achieve a tactical goal, to straighten their front line along this line here, which means taking control of Tyotkino and Popovo Leżachi. To do this, they try to send in assault groups every day. And these assault groups die. There were 6 people in one such group, all of them dead. As you can see, the AFU has minor control near Chapaeva Street. They've managed to advance 600 meters from the border. Important clarification, this is not in the past day or the past week, this is since May 5th. Since they began their offensive, they've advanced 600 meters in this area. They also hold Pristanstianaya Street, that's a 540-meter advance from the border. And they've taken control of this forest belt. So once again, from this direction, they couldn't even enter the village. They only occupied the forest belt and are sitting there under constant shelling. The distance from the border there is 1.8 kilometers. That's the full extent of the AFU advance, not over a few days, but since May 5th when they began the operation. Now, you might say, that's a Russian map, probably full of lies, downplaying the situation to make it look better. But both Ukrainian and American cartographers show the same picture. Let's continue analyzing the front and return to the Kursk region. Once again, according to the Russian map, let's sum up. The Ukrainian armed forces advanced 600 meters from the border near Chapaeva Street, 540 meters near Pristanstianaya Street, and 1.8 kilometers along the forest belt from the northeast. In this sector, they still haven't entered the village. Moreover, according to American cartographers, there are no Ukrainian troops in Tyotkino at all. And in the sections near the border streets, there's no control by either side. It's a gray zone. But I guess Americans don't know anything, since some already claimed the AFU reached the center of Tyotkino and encircled 2 companies. So, let's look at the Ukrainian map. Surely it would show something different. And what do we see? Ukrainian control only over that same forest belt in the northeast. No AFU control is shown in Tyotkino itself. The streets closest to the border are marked as a gray zone. So for objectivity, we've analyzed 2 maps, the Russian and the Ukrainian. All 3 maps agree. The AFU controls one forest belt to the northeast. Every map confirms this, so that's definitely the case. You might still say, but it's not all good, the situation is difficult. And I'll agree with you. Yes, it's tough for the guys there. Yes, the situation is hard, but here's the important part. It didn't become difficult just now or a few days ago. It's been this way since May 5th. Since May 5th, when the AFU began this offensive, After they were completely pushed out of the Sudzha area and wanted to re-enter the Kursk region somewhere, they launched this attack on Tyotkino. And since May 5th, our guys have been in a semi-encircled situation, simply due to geography, because this part of the Kursk region juts out, and the AFU were initially positioned from 3 directions, controlling logistics with drones from the start. Once again, from May 9th to June 9th in the Tyotkino area, the AFU managed to advance on 2 sectors, 370 meters in one and 1 kilometer in the other. That's it. That's their entire result after a month of constant fighting. And yet some people are panicking over this. Meanwhile, during the same month, the Russian army, let's even ignore Donetsk and Lyman, just east of here, in the Sumy region, here's the red dashed line, that's where Russian troops were on May 9th. And here's how much territory we've taken since then. Here we advanced 5 kilometers, here 6 kilometers, and here another 6 kilometers. From May 9th to June 9th, we've taken control of 8 villages and 94 square kilometers in Sumy region, while the AFU only advanced 1 kilometer in a single forest strip. Let's go back here just to put it in perspective. In this forested area, the AFU took control of 0.8 square kilometers. Over here, 0.3 square kilometers, and they lost this area, 0.5 square kilometers. So the math is simple. Their net gain is 0.6 square kilometers. That's their entire advance over a month. Just over half a square kilometer. And us? 94 square kilometers in Sumy region alone, and yet people are panicking here as if it wasn't them. But we who lost nearly 100 square kilometers. So let's summarize and fix the facts based on objective data from both our and Ukrainian sides. The Ukrainian armed forces control a single forest strip about 1.8 kilometers long, plus possibly a shallow foothold about 500 meters deep along 2 border streets. Even the Ukrainian map classifies this area as a gray zone. That's it. That is the full extent of Ukrainian control in the Tyotkino area. At the same time, yes, it must be acknowledged and noted that they do control logistics with drones, and our garrison in Tyotkino is having a hard time. Our guys are de facto in operational encirclement, but they've been holding out in this operational encirclement for over a month now. They are heroically defending the village, not letting the Ukrainian forces in and holding their positions. Meanwhile, Ukrainian soldiers, whom their commanders keep throwing into assaults, are dying in droves. Filter the information, cross-check it from different sources. Go look at the map yourselves and see the situation, so you don't panic unnecessarily and understand what's really happening in any given area. The Russian Ministry of Defense has reported a breakthrough by Russian forces into the Dnipropetrovsk region. According to the ministry, the advance is being carried out by units of the 90th Guards Vitebsk-Novgorod Tank Division, which had previously secured positions on the western border of Donetsk Oblast. Their main direction of attack is the village of Novopavlovka in the Medjova district of Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, located less than 9 kilometers from the current Russian positions. Units of the 90th Tank Division, part of the Central Military District, are advancing as part of an operation to establish control over key communication routes in the region. However, there are no independent confirmations of the breakthrough yet, and the Ukrainian side denies any border crossing. Meanwhile, Russian units from the Vostok, as East Group, continue to build on previously achieved gains in the South Donetsk direction. Fighting remains intense in the Shakhtarsk sector, where Russian forces are advancing to seize strongholds and expand their zone of control. The battle for Kamar is ongoing. Russian sources report control over the southern part of the settlement, with clearing operations underway. On the right flank, Russian forces have cleared 4 forest belts, captured 2 heights, and taken control of a dam to the northwest of Bahatir. On the Vremivka sector, Russian troops broke through the first line of Ukrainian defenses, captured 2 defensive areas, and cleared 4 forest belts. Simultaneously, in the Malinivka area, active Russian operations from 2 flanks allowed them to seize strongholds, occupy 2 heights, and fortify 2 defensive sectors. Ukrainian forces launched several counterattacks in an attempt to halt the Russian advance, all without success. Meanwhile, in the Pokrovsk direction, fierce fighting continues along the entire front line. According to the OSINT channel War Gonzo, Russian troops appear to be preparing for a major Ukrainian counteroffensive. But where and when it will happen remains unknown. It would be naive to think that Ukrainian forces will give up Pokrovsk without serious resistance, even considering how difficult their situation is on both flanks of the city. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, no major changes in the contact line have been recorded. Russian forces continue to put pressure on Ukrainian defenses at several points, but the fighting remains largely positional. Meanwhile, Maria Belinska, head of the Ukrainian Armed Forces Support and Intelligence Center, made a bold statement calling on the entire adult population of the country, including women and citizens aged 17 and up, to prepare for mobilization. In an interview, she stressed that Ukraine has reached a critical point where absolutely everyone must be ready to join the army. We're already at the stage where women, and even people from the age of 17, must prepare. In fact, the entire adult population, Belinska said, adding that Ukraine should have no caste of untouchables. Her statement triggered a strong reaction, including criticism from members of the Verkhovna Rada, who suggested starting the mobilization with Belinska herself. Belinska's comments come amid a worsening mobilization situation in Ukraine. The country is facing a severe shortage of manpower in the armed forces due to high losses and exhausted reserves. In April 2024, President Volodymyr Zelensky signed a law lowering the conscription age from 27 to 25, enabling more citizens to be drafted. However, according to Commander-in-Chief Oleksandr Syrsky, replenishing losses requires mobilizing at least 30,000 people per month. At the same time, Kyiv Independent reports that over 20,000 men of draft age have illegally left the country to avoid mobilization, worsening the crisis. Meanwhile, tensions between Russia and Ukraine continue to escalate following Ukrainian drone attacks on Russian military airfields, which, according to US assessments, caused significant damage to Russia's strategic bombers. Reuters reports that US officials believe Russia has not yet issued a full response to the attack and expect Moscow to launch a large-scale retaliatory strike. According to American sources, the timing of Russia's response remains unclear, but one official suggested it could happen in the coming days. Another noted that the response will likely involve various types of air weapons, including missiles and drones. The focus will reportedly be on an asymmetric strike, not a mirror image of the Ukrainian attack on aircraft, but a strike on strategically symbolic targets. Also of note, Kirill Dmitriev, head of the Russian Direct Investment Fund and Special Presidential Envoy for Investment and Economic Cooperation, stated that public opinion in Russia toward the US has significantly shifted. According to him, the number of Russians viewing the US as a hostile nation has dropped from 75% to 40%, which he attributes to the recent dialogue between Russian President Vladimir Putin and former US President Donald Trump. At the same time, support for normalizing relations with the West has increased from 52% to 80%, which, according to Dmitriev, creates a strong opportunity for de-escalation. His remarks are based on poll data. Sociologists note that these developments have changed Russian perceptions of the US, shifting the focus from confrontation to dialogue. Meanwhile, French automotive giant Renault will begin producing drones in Ukraine in partnership with a local defense company. This was reported by France Info Radio, confirming earlier rumors mentioned by French Defense Minister Sébastien Lecornu. The production will be located dozens or even hundreds of kilometers from the front line to minimize risks. Lecornu emphasized that Ukrainian specialists, who have significant experience in drone development and use, will handle the work, eliminating the need to send French staff to Ukraine. Simultaneously, the Netherlands has announced a new military aid package to Ukraine worth €400 million, aimed at strengthening the country's maritime security. Thanks for staying with us through this Frontline update. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep your eyes open. More reports coming soon. Stay strong and see you in the next one.